Greetings, philosophers. Welcome back to Disenthrall. This is the beginning of a experiment. I have a daily routine that I've been doing for a while that involves a bunch of different stuff, and maybe if you guys are interested, I can make a separate video on that where I talk about my daily routine. But part of my morning, every morning, is I sit and I plan my day with the bullet journal method that I've done a video on previously. Then I do 15 minutes of reading philosophy. Just 15 minutes, not a lot, every day. And following that, I do about 15 minutes of think time just to get the day started. Think time, we can talk about all this later. So because I'm doing this reading, and actually I'm about to start reading some of Plato's works again, and I wondered if I could sort of bring everyone in, bring the world in to this time of my day every day in a way that didn't mess with my routine, because this pattern of behavior for me is critical to starting each day in the right mindset, and to my learning and to a bunch of stuff to me. So what I do every day, this is primarily for me personally. This video that you're watching is an experiment to see if I can just, basically hit stream or hit record, do my reading that I would normally do anyway, give you guys the benefit of maybe this habit every day for those of you that don't have time or the interest to actually sit down and read the physical book. You can maybe follow along with the video. And so for me to be able to do this, the experiment is basically going to be me doing my reading like I do every day when I first wake up. It's going to be, low production value. I'm not showing my face. I'm not worried about audio quality and all this stuff. And I'm just going to do my reading as I normally do. And, if I want to reread something that I messed up on or that I thought was important or that I was confused by, I'm going to stop and go back and reread that sentence or paragraph. And if I mess up, I mess up. That's fine. If I don't read it perfectly, that's fine. I'm not creating an audiobook here. I'm just hitting record to see if this might be something that you guys find useful. Now, you guys have to tell me if you find this useful by commenting or, like, thumbs up, all that stuff, whatever. But I'm gonna be watching you guys and your reactions to see if this is something I should keep doing or if I should just go back to doing this privately. So this is kind of the day one, or the first try. And what I'm about to begin reading is the complete works of Plato. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go through the complete works of Plato because it's extensive. But I'm at least going to go through the first couple of works. We're going to begin with Euthyphro, which is... See, I'm already doing it. I'm already trying to make this a show. Euthyphro is the story leading up to Socrates' murder by the state. So, and the beginning of this chapter is the editor of this book setting the scene, which, I appreciate. So let's get into it. This is Euthyphro, the first work in the book. And if you guys are interested, I can link the actual book I'm reading from in the description. So here we go. Euthyphro, and this is the editor. The scene is the Agora, or central marketplace of Athens. Before the offices of the magistrate who registers and makes preliminary inquiries into charges brought under the laws protecting the city from the gods' displeasure. There Socrates meets Euthyphro. Socrates is on his way in to answer the charges of impiety brought against him by three younger fellow citizens, on which he is going to be condemned to death, as we learn in the Apology. Euthyphro has just deposed murder charges against his own father for the death of a servant. Murder was a religious offense since it entailed pollution, which, if not ritually purified, was displeasing to the gods. But equally, a son's taking such action against his father might well itself be regarded as impious. Euthyphro professes to be acting on esoteric knowledge about the gods and their wishes, and so about the general topic of piety. Socrates seizes the opportunity to acquire from Euthyphro this knowledge of piety, so that he can rebut the accusations against himself. However, like all his other interlocutors, in Plato's Socratic dialogues, Euthyphro cannot answer Socrates' questions to Socrates' satisfaction, or ultimately to his own. So he cannot make it clear what piety is, though he continues to think that he does know it. Thus, predictably, Socrates' hopes are disappointed, just when he is ready to press further to help Euthyphro express his knowledge, if indeed he does possess it. Euthyphro begs off on the excuse of business elsewhere. Though Socrates does not succeed in his quest, we readers learn a good deal about the sort of thing Socrates is looking for in asking this question, what is piety? And the other, what is? Questions he pursues in other dialogues. He wants a single model or standard he can look to in order to determine which acts and persons are pious, one that gives clear, unconflicting, and unambiguous answers. He wants something that can provide such a standard all on its own, as one of Euthyphro's proposals, that being pious is simply being loved by the gods cannot do, since one needs to know first what the gods do love. Pious acts and people may indeed be loved by the gods, but that is a secondary quality, not the essence of piety. It is not that which serves as the standard being sought. There seems no reason to doubt the character Socrates' sincerity in probing Euthyphro's statements, so as to work out an adequate answer. He has in advance no answer of his own to test out or to advocate, but does the dialogue itself suggest to the attentive reader an answer of its own? Euthyphro frustrates Socrates by his inability to develop adequately his final suggestion, that piety is justice in relation to the gods, in serving and assisting them in some purpose or enterprise of their own. Socrates seems to find that an enticing idea. Does Plato mean to suggest that piety may be shown simply in doing one's best to become as morally good as possible? Something Socrates claims in the Apology. The gods want more than anything else? If so, can piety remain an independent virtue at all, with its own separate standard for action? These are among the questions this dialogue leaves us to ponder. Okay, let's get started. This is the actual dialogue now. Euthyphro. What's new, Socrates, to make you leave your usual haunts in the Lyceum and spend your time here by the King Archon's court? Surely you are not prosecuting anyone before the King Archon as I am. Socrates. The Athenians do not call this a prosecution, but an indictment, Euthyphro. Euthyphro. What is this you say? Someone must have indicted you, for you are not going to tell me that you have indicted someone else. Socrates. No, indeed. Euthyphro. But someone else has indicted you? Quite so. Who is he? Socrates. I do not really know him myself, Euthyphro. He is apparently young and unknown. They call him Miletus, I believe. He belongs to the Pythian deme. If you know anyone from that deme, I don't know how to pronounce deme. D-E-M-E? I'll have to look that up. If you know anyone from that deme called Miletus, with long hair, not much of a beard, and a rather aquiline nose. Euthyphro. I don't know him, Socrates. What charge does he bring against you? Socrates. What charge? A not ignoble one, I think, for it is no small thing for a young man to have knowledge of such an important subject. He says he knows how our young men are corrupted, and who corrupts them. He is likely to be wise, and when he sees my ignorance corrupting his contemporaries, he proceeds to accuse me to the city as their mother. I think he is the only one of our public men to start out the right way, for it is right to care first that the young should be as good as possible, just as a good farmer is likely to take care of the young plants first, and of the others later. So, too, Meletus first gets rid of us who corrupt the young shoots, as he says, and then afterward he will obviously take care of the older ones and become a source of great blessings for the city, as seems likely to happen to one who started out this way. Euthyphro: I could wish this were true, Socrates, but I fear the opposite may happen. He seems to me to start out by harming the very heart of the city by attempting to wrong you. Tell me, what does he say you do to corrupt the young? Socrates: Strange things to hear him tell it. For he says that I am a maker of gods, and on the ground that I create new gods while not believing in the old gods. He has indicted me for their sake, as he puts it. Euthyphro: I understand, Socrates. This is because you say that the divine sign keeps coming to you. So he has written this indictment against you as one who makes innovations in religious matters, and he comes to court to slander you, knowing that such things are easily misrepresented to the crowd. The same is true in my case. Whenever I speak of divine matters in the assembly and foretell the future, they laugh me down as if I were crazy, and yet I have foretold nothing that did not happen. Nevertheless, they envy all of us who do this. One need not worry about them, but meet them head on. Socrates: My dear Euthyphro, to be laughed at does not matter, perhaps. For the Athenians do not mind anyone they think clever as long as he does not teach his own wisdom. But if they think that he makes others to be like himself, they get angry, whether through envy, as you say, or for some other reason. Euthyphro: I have certainly no desire to test their feelings toward me in this matter. Socrates: Perhaps you seem to make yourself but rarely available and not be willing to teach your own wisdom. But I'm afraid that my liking for people makes them think that I pour out to anybody anything I have to say, not only without charging a fee, but even glad to reward anyone who is willing to listen. If then they were intending to laugh at me, as you say, they laugh at you, there would be nothing unpleasant in their spending their time in court laughing and jesting, but if they are going to be serious, the outcome is not clear except to you prophets. Euthyphro: Perhaps it will come to nothing, Socrates, and you will fight your case as you think best, as I think I will mine. Socrates: What is your case, Euthyphro? Are you the defendant or the prosecutor? Euthyphro: The prosecutor. Whom do you prosecute? One whom I am thought crazy to prosecute. Are you pursuing someone who will easily escape you? Far from it, for he is quite old. Who is it? My father. My dear sir, your own father? Certainly. What is the charge? What is the case about? Murder, Socrates. Good heavens! Certainly, Euthyphro, most men would not know how they could do this and be right. It is not the part of anyone to do this, but of one who is far advanced in wisdom. Euthyphro: Yes, by Zeus, Socrates, that is so. Socrates: Is then the man your father killed one of your relatives, or is that obvious, for you would not prosecute your father for the murder of a stranger? Euthyphro: It is ridiculous, Socrates, for you to think that it makes any difference whether the victim is a stranger or a relative. One should only watch whether the killer acted justly or not. If he acted justly, let him go, but if not, one should prosecute. If, that is to say, the killer shares your hearth and table. The pollution is the same if you knowingly keep company with such a man and do not cleanse yourself and him by bringing him to justice. The victim was a dependent of mine, and when we were farming in Naxos, he was a servant of ours. He killed one of our household slaves in drunken anger. So my father bound him hand and foot and threw him in a ditch, then sent a man here to inquire from the priest what should be done. During that time he gave no thought or care to the bound man, as being a killer, and it was no matter if he died, which he did. Hunger and cold and his hands caused his death before the messenger came back from the seer. Both my father and my other relatives are angry that I am prosecuting my father for murder on behalf of a murderer when he hadn't even killed him, they say, and even if he had, the dead man does not deserve a thought since he was a killer. For they say it is impious for a son to prosecute his father for murder. But their ideas of the divine attitude to piety and impiety are wrong, Socrates. Socrates. Whereas by Zeus, Euthyphro, you think that your knowledge of the divine and of piety and impiety is so accurate that when those things happen as you say, you have no fear of having acted impiously and bringing your father to trial? Euthyphro. I should be of no use, Socrates, and Euthyphro would not be superior to the majority of men if I did not have accurate knowledge of all such things. Socrates. It is indeed most important, my admirable Euthyphro, that I should become your pupil. As regards this indictment, challenge Meletus about these very things and say to him that in the past too I considered knowledge about the divine to be most important, and that now that he says I am guilty of improvising and innovating about the gods, I have become your pupil. I would say to him, quote, if Meletus, you agree that Euthyphro is wise in these matters, consider me too to have the right beliefs and do not bring me to trial. If you do not think so, then prosecute that teacher of mine, not me, for corrupting the older men, me and his own father, by teaching me and by exhorting and punishing him. End quote. If he is not convinced and does not discharge me or indict you instead of me, I shall repeat the same challenge in court. Euthyphro. Yes, by Zeus, Socrates, and if he should try to indict me, I think I would find his weak spots, and the talk in court would be about him rather than me. Socrates. It is because I realize this that I am eager to become your pupil, my dear friend. I know that other people as well as this Meletus do not even seem to notice you, whereas he sees me so sharply and clearly that he indicts me for ungodliness. So tell me now, by Zeus, what you just now maintained you clearly knew. What kind of thing do you say that godliness and ungodliness are, both as regards to murder and other things? Or is the pious not the same and alike in every action, and the impious the opposite of all that is pious and like itself? And everything that is to be impious presents us with one form or appearance insofar as it is impious. Euthyphro. Most certainly, Socrates. All right, I think that's a great spot to leave it there. They're about to get into a debate over piety, what piety is, and that is the subject of this chapter. So we'll leave it there. I will see you next time. It's going to be a busy day. I've got a lot of things going on, pulling me in different directions. The thing I'm going to try and keep focused on in my mind today is tranquility. Breathing. I want some sun on the skin. I want some open, fresh air. And throughout the day, when I deal with all this stuff, large quantities of money today, all kinds of problems, I want to maintain tranquility. I want to ride this day instead of letting it ride me. So that's all for this one, guys. Take it easy.